Greetings everyone, welcome to video number 15 in the project management series presented by Process Geekoid. Today's agenda will be going over reviewing the PMBOK process table as well as the 12th process, which is the control scope process. This process occurs at the intersection of the scope knowledge area and the controlling process group. With this process concludes the scope knowledge area. As always, please subscribe, like, and comment. So let's move forward. Now that the scope has been planned for with a scope baseline in place, the next step is to control the scope to ensure that we meet the customer requirements. Remember that the scope baseline is what the project team and the end customer have agreed upon as the final version of the project scope. The purpose of this process is to monitor the status of the project and product scope so that it does not go against the scope baseline. When controlling the scope, we must manage and minimize change requests because they prolong the project timeline and increase the budget, both of which we want to avoid. Next, we'll be going over the control scope, ITTOs, inputs, tools, techniques, and outputs for the control scope process. First, the purpose of this whole process is to monitor the status of the project and product scope and manage changes to the scope baseline. For inputs, we have project management plan, requirements documentation, which is coming from the collect requirements process, where we have our business requirements document, functional requirements document, non-functional requirements, and transitional requirements. The requirements traceability matrix is where we are ensuring that all these requirements are tied to the correct resources and to the right deliverable, and even the owner. Next, we have work performance data. These are the raw observations of what a project team sees internally during project execution. For example, if we were to change the scope of the project, such as, let's say we wanted to add one more feature in the case of making a smartphone, we wanted to add another application within the App Store, then that would change the whole scope for creating the phone itself. As a result, we are going to take that as a raw observation, and then we would use tools and techniques such as variance analysis to see what impact that would have on the overall budget, risk, resource, and schedule. That would yield a work performance information as an output. And the other input we have here is organizational process assets, which are going to be internal policies and procedures that will help us control the scope. Now, as we're just talking in regards to variance analysis, which is a tool and technique, here we'll be taking existing data and comparing it to the baseline. So metrics such as cost performance index, which is earned value divided by actual cost. Cost variance is earned value minus actual cost. Schedule variance is earned value minus planned value. Schedule performance index, or SPI, is earned value divided by planned value. All these metrics will tell us the gap that needs to be minimized and accounted for. So by doing that, we will know where we are in terms of scope. And if we have too much variance, then it means that we have a scope issue and needs to be controlled. And for variance analysis, it basically helps us determine the cause and degree of difference between the baseline and actual performance. The project performance measurements are used to assess the magnitude of variation from the original scope baseline. Important aspects of project scope control include determining the cause and degree of variance relative to the scope baseline and deciding whether corrective or preventative action is required. So now the outputs are going to be work performance information. This is where we are taking the work performance data from the inputs and analyzing that data in context. Examples of this information that we are getting now is going to be categories of changes received, identified scope variances and causes of those changes, impact of scope changes on schedule, cost, risk, and resources, and forecast of future scope performance. Other outputs include change requests. In the case that the project team sees a need to change the scope to better serve a customer need or expectation, it is encouraged. However, having too many change requests are hindered on. This could come in the form of proactive preventative PMBOK change requests or enhancement requests, or reactive corrective action after the fact defect repairs. Now, in these two flavors of change requests, we'd rather have proactive preventative repairs change requests versus reactive corrective action change requests to repair a problem that we have faced. So it's better to be proactive and preventing an issue from arising and do corrective preventative action before going and fixing an issue. However, frequent scope requests, change requests in scope will result in project failure with a burnt-out budget, prolonged timeline, and team resources and disgruntled stakeholders. So keep that in mind. Having too many change requests are not good. But if we have to have a change request, as we had talked about earlier, this will have to go to the Perform Integrated Change Control process to be approved or rejected. In the case of approval, the change request is going to be implemented again during the direct managed project work process in execution. The deliverable will then go to control quality to be verified by the project team. Once verified, it will come back to validate scope, this time for acceptance, and then go back to control scope again, and making sure that as a team and as a customer that we are satisfied with the scope overall and move forward. So controlling scope here, we're doing this internally, and this change request have to be minimized here and make sure that the scope is not changed as much. And in terms of other outputs, we have project management plan updates. The scope baseline is updated as well as other baselines. Project document updates, updates to the requirements documentation and requirements traceability matrix. This can be updated as needed by the customer. OPA updates. We will be updating causes of variance, corrective action chosen and reasons for those changes and actions, and lessons learned from scope control. The key benefit of this control scope process is that it allows scope baseline to be maintained throughout the project. Thank you for watching. Please subscribe, like, and comment.